Top 5 Monday thoughts. Number 5, North Carolina still has a ways to go. I thought that maybe the Virginia loss was a fluke, but Georgia Tech, who's better than Virginia, and honestly, if you're in the ACC and you want to, change the stars of your program, hire a guy named Brent Key and Brent Pry, both doing well at their programs. But Haynes King had a career night, and North Carolina, the last couple weeks, no defense to speak of, and they are, as it stands right now, because they won't get a shot at either FSU or Louisville, especially Louisville, who has a loss. They won't get a shot at either of those guys. They have to hope for a lot of things to happen if they want to play in the ACC title game again. And that was a little bit surprising to me because I thought that especially, and now I don't know how long he's going to be out because he took that hit at the end of the game that kind of ended the game, that Tez Walker would change that team completely. But they've lost 2 in a row, and Mac Brown is left scratching his head as to where things went awry.
Yeah, apparently he's doing okay, Tez Walker, but I don't know that there's any report on like what he's facing moving forward as far as, missing a game or anything like that. But, in terms of having to go to the hospital, he's doing okay. So that's
I thought he was released,
good to hear. Things are going good on the health front, but I'm saying I don't know how much time he's missing or if he's going to miss any time or whatever, but everything else seems to be fine. But yeah, it's a tough deal. I mean, it's kind of Mac Brown too, though, right? I mean, he loses games that you don't expect to lose, and that was certainly the case a couple weeks back. And now you follow it up with another one, and yeah, your dreams are starting to get dashed in a major way right here at the end. And just a shame when you've got it set up the way you do with your quarterback, and feeling like this was going to be a pretty big year, and we'll see how they close. But yeah, they've certainly gotten derailed here in the past couple of games.
Number 4. Mike Gundy's demise was prematurely reported. He's figured it out, and I think that, of course, we talked about it with Dave Hunsaker earlier, but, they figured out what they had, and they adjusted. I do think, though, had they messed around with the 3 quarterbacks any longer, maybe this wouldn't have happened, but he figured out when to go and just stick with Alan Bowman when he did, and, of course, Ollie Gordon's explosion has certainly helped this, but they figured out who they were, and credit to Mike Gundy for doing that, because after South Alabama, that felt like it was about to be a lost season.
Yeah, it did, and South Alabama's a good team. To their credit, they still shouldn't be beating Oklahoma State the way that they did. It wasn't even just that you lost, it's how you lost. But,
and at home.
Yeah, it's all the factors of how you lost, and that was a brutal defeat, and for them to now go on this run that they've been on with Ollie Gordon leading the way, it's been a lot of fun to watch, and I'm sure just a brilliant time for Oklahoma State fans who at the beginning of the year thought that, a lot of hope was lost, but now here you are, and Bedlam's as big as it possibly could be, and much bigger than you probably thought it would ever be after the South Alabama game. It was always going to be big regardless, but now it has like stakes beyond just the rivalry and it's the last time and all of those types of things. It was going to have that regardless, but now it has actual stakes as well. And so, yeah, Mike Gundy deserves a lot of credit for figuring things out, but that you would hope that a guy who's been around as long as he has can figure those things out, and that he hadn't lost his touch, and certainly he has not lost his touch. They just needed to make some changes, and those changes have been for the better.
Number 3, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the reason Ohio State is undefeated. That and the defense. But the difference in the last couple of games against Penn State and Wisconsin was 18. They Ecuba's been out. So that they haven't had all their playmakers. Travian Henderson certainly, I think, made a difference against Wisconsin as well. But if you want to go by why Ohio State can keep winning these narrow games, yes, it's their defense. But if they did not have this guy, they'd have lost a couple of those because they're just not there on the rest of their offense yet. But he is so freaking good. He's the difference in all of these.
Yeah, he's special. We're watching him on Sundays here pretty soon, and he's kept them afloat when they don't have nearly as many options as they would previously have. There's something what was it? The last couple years, the receiving core alone was, as star-studded as you could possibly get, deep, and that's just not the case for them right now. Got a lot of young talent, and just kind of finding their way. But he's a bona fide superstar, and he's everything you want in a star wide receiver, and he is keeping them above water in some cases, as that defense is as well. So yeah, he's unbelievable.
Number 2, Oregon is out for blood. They are absolutely just out for blood. The way that they demolished Utah like that. Dan Lanning has got something going there. Craig, you mentioned it earlier on the show. I know, and I agree with you. I know that Washington won that game. Oregon was in position to maybe even run away with it if their fourth down calls work out. I think Oregon is probably better top to bottom than Washington, but they just weren't on that day. And they're a team that whoever you are rest of the season, whether it's in the Pac-12 or in the potential college football playoff if they made it there, I don't care if it's Michigan or Georgia, I don't want to play Oregon.
Yeah, no, I think that they are really playing a great brand of football at the moment, and that was impressive to see them dismantle Utah the way that they did. I mean, it didn't start off that way. You thought, like, dang, is Utah going to hang in this game too? But I just felt like Oregon just had too much firepower. I mean, offensively, defensively, you name it, and sure enough, they did. I mean, they ended up running away with that game eventually. Tough loss for Utah, but, I mean, I think everybody would agree they'd kind of exceeded the expectations given their injuries at this point already. And so to think that they were going to – I mean, if they'd gone and beaten Oregon, like after all that, just give Kyle Whittingham the Decade Coach of the Year award or whatever. But no, was not in the cards because Oregon is just really, really good. And, yeah, like you said, they're out for blood, and they're right there in that playoff conversation with a bunch of big games still left to play.
Yeah, I wonder if Utah is – they're not going to tap out. They're not going to do that. But you just wonder if they're just worn out right now.
Well, and look, eventually not having your quarterback is going to get to you. They've been walking that line for a while, and you're running against Oregon, who's really good. And I think it was, it's probably worse news for the rest of the Pac-12 that Oregon lost that game, and Dan Lanning now has a chip on his shoulder about it, that had they won the game, and he might have had to keep the rat poison out of their mouths.
Yeah,
so
and I want to make sure – I'm not saying that's why Oregon won because they pummeled them. But you just, man, I tell you what.
Well, you run up against a team like that, like you're going to need Cam Rising against Oregon.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You don't need, no offense to Bryson Barnes, you don't need that guy.
I mean, he threw 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. They had 99 yards rushing. Yeah. He had, under 50% completion percent. I mean, yeah, that's not going to work, and that was something they were inevitably going to run into. It's just that Oregon's good enough to actually force that and not only do that defensively, but then also be good enough on offense to overcome Utah's biggest strength, which is their defense. And yeah, we saw the difference in those two here at the moment. But Utah's still a good team, but Oregon's got potential to be a great team.
If Oregon takes care of business against Cal, which they should, but they gave how many points could they score against USC's defense in 2 weeks?
Name it. I mean, pick a number over 50. I think they could.
Alex Grinch isn't a problem, though, guys.
No, he's fine.
Totally fine.
Yeah. By the way, congratulations to Cal. Hope your protest worked out well for a professor who got fired for stalking someone.
Is that what that was?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is stupid? I thought it was going to be like a real world issue where you're like, okay, kids, I get it, but no, it's for a professor who got fired. That's what it was. Way to go, guys.
Yeah. Enjoy that ACC.
Yeah. Number 1. Iowa's nightmare has an expiration date. It will be after their bowl game. And I'm just going to say it. I don't think that's the only Ferentz that needs to go. Kirk Ferentz has certainly earned his own retirement or exit by being an excellent coach there for a long time. But, he was addressed with this problem about the offense and refused to solve it, and then they had to solve it for him. That's never a good sign when it comes to coaching university. When the university has we can all identify, everyone can agree the offense isn't scoring enough points, except for the head coach who did not want to solve the problem and then kind of painted himself into a corner with this. And I get you're supporting your son, but can you make him the tight ends coach or something and let somebody else call the plays until he's ready to do that again?
I thought what the AD said and the way she said it was
she shouldn't have to be making these decisions.
Almost not to hurt anybody's feelings, but it was blistering. It made it. We got to do this, and we got to do what's best for our program, and it's best that we make the decision at this particular time.
Yeah, they've got to start recruiting offensive players too.
I won't pretend to know the pulse of Iowa Hawkeye football or what the feeling is around the program at the moment, but I don't know. I know where you're coming from, Paul, but that dude's built up so much goodwill, and I understand he's erased some of it with the whole handling of Brian Ferentz, but that guy's, what are you going to go realistically do if you're Iowa? You know what I mean? You're going to go hire Luke Fickell like Wisconsin did, or like what are your plans? Because you have an identity. I can't say that for the team over here. I can't say that for some other teams I watched on Saturday. Now, yes, the offense has to be better, but he's going to get a crack at trying to do that before any kind of time starts ticking on him. He seems to have like pretty free reign, but he definitely threw some of that to the wayside in defense of his son, and I'm sure that will need to be cleared up or what have you. But I mean, that dude has kept them at a pretty high level for a long time, and I don't know that there's a lot of guys out there that could continue to do that.
All right, one quick note of the ACC